Last week, Texas Republicans unveiled a new gerrymandered congressional map that would boost the party's chances at next year's midterm elections. A move encouraged by President Trump, who faces the prospect of the Democrats retaking control of the House of Representatives. This has sparked a major political battle. Dozens of Democratic lawmakers have fled Texas in an attempt to prevent the adoption of the new maps, and Democrat-led states like California have threatened to redraw their own congressional boundaries to negate any Republican gains in Texas. So in this video, we're going to explain Trump's push to gerrymander the 2026 midterms, the Democrats' plans to try and out-gerrymander him, and why it's so important. Have you ever wondered how much money TLDR makes each year? Or who's funding our journalism? Well, we think transparency is super important. So we answer both questions in our recent video. It's linked in the description. To get things started, it's worth explaining how redrawing congressional boundaries, a process called redistricting, usually works. It normally happens once every 10 years, as states redraw their congressional maps using fresh census data to account for population changes. The last round was carried out back in 2021 to 2022 using 2020 census data. So, in theory, the next round isn't due for at least half a decade. The process varies state by state, but in most, it's the state legislature with primary control, meaning that the party in control of that state shortly after the census wields considerable control over the drawing of the map. For those who don't know, gerrymandering refers to the manipulation of constituency boundaries to favour one party or group over another. It's how you end up with bizarrely shaped districts like this in Illinois, a pretty heavily gerrymandered state favouring the Democrats, or big Democrat voting cities like Nashville, with no dedicated representative because it's been carved up and split between several wider Republican-held districts. So, last week, Republican lawmakers in Texas unveiled their new draft congressional map that gives Republicans the chance to pick up 5 additional US House seats. Currently, Republicans make up 25 of the 38-strong delegation that Texas sends to the US House, while Democrats make up the other 13. Under the new proposed map, Republicans would be favoured in 30 congressional districts, and Democrats in just 8. This mid-decade accelerated redistricting is pretty extraordinary, and Governor Greg Abbott sought to justify the move by citing a letter from Trump's Justice Department which claimed that several Texas districts were unconstitutionally racially gerrymandered. Trump, however, claimed that Republicans are entitled to 5 more seats, and is not really spinning this as anything other than a political play.
On Texas, how many more seats do you want the Republicans to draw?
5.
And then what if California, New York, Illinois, and other blue states
Yeah, well,
decide
that's
to do
okay
this?
too, but 5. I think we get 5. And there could be some other states. We're going to get another 3 or 4 or 5 in addition. Texas would be the biggest one, and
So
that'll be 5.
are you calling then for a complete redrawing of the congressional map ahead of next year?
Just a very simple redrawing. We pick up 5 seats.
Now, 5 additional seats might not sound like much, but every seat really counts. Democrats only need to net 3 seats to retake the House. Plus, other Republican-controlled states like Missouri are also under pressure from Trump to redraw their districts, so the number could really add up. Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis has floated a mid-decade redistricting, and Ohio Republicans are eyeing additional seats as part of a legally mandated redistricting. Again, it's worth noting that, yes, both parties do gerrymander, but doing so outside the normal 10-year cycle, and seemingly at the explicit instruction of the president to boost his midterm chances, is not the normal state of affairs. Trump has good reason to fear losing control of the House of Representatives. Midterm elections almost always go poorly for the party of the incumbent president. Obama, Trump, and Biden all lost control of the House in their first midterms. So, the 2026 midterms are a prime opportunity for the Democrats to break the Republicans' hold on Congress. A Democrat-controlled House could derail Trump's legislative agenda, launch investigations into any number of his actions, and ultimately impeach him, as it has done twice before. So what has the response been to Texas's redistricting? Democrats have variously condemned it as corrupt and cheating. But Texas Democrats don't really have many weapons to fight it with. So, to prevent approval of the draft map by the state legislature, more than 50 Democratic lawmakers fled Texas to deny their Republican counterparts a quorum, i.e., the minimum number of lawmakers needed to conduct business. Many have headed to deep blue states like Illinois, where Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker said he would do everything he can to protect every single one of them. Texas's Republican Governor Abbott accused the fleeing Democrats of a dereliction of duty for also holding up progress on other legislation like flood relief, and said that he had ordered state troopers to locate, arrest, and return to the House chamber any absent members, also threatening bribery charges against them in connection to donations they were allegedly receiving to help offset the $500 daily fines they face. The walkout can delay, but probably won't prevent the adoption of the new map. History shows that previous walkouts to break quorum have had mixed results. For example, Democratic lawmakers left Texas in 2021 to protest Republican efforts to overhaul voting rules. But after nearly 5 weeks, several lawmakers returned home, quorum was reached, and the bill passed. If the new Texan map does get approved, the redistricting battle will escalate into a truly national one. Democrat-controlled states, most notably California and New York, have threatened to respond to Texas's Republican gerrymandering with their own reciprocal mid-decade gerrymandering. California Governor Gavin Newsom has set out a plan that would see the state's Democrat-dominated legislature draw up new congressional boundaries targeting 5 Republican incumbents, with the new map likely being put to voters in a referendum in November. Now, some Democrats, particularly in states like California, have increasingly embraced redistricting by independent commissions as a fairer, less partisan approach than line drawing by politicians. So, a mid-decade political redistricting really does not align with what some Democrats have previously championed. Nevertheless, the gloves are apparently off, and Democratic governors like Newsom and New York's Kathy Hochul are openly embracing mid-decade gerrymandering as a necessary retaliatory tactic against Donald Trump. While each state faces legal and political hurdles, it's clear that this has escalated into a major national battle, a redistricting arms race with high stakes, control of the House of Representatives, and the ability to restrain or enable Donald Trump's presidency.
Of course, we want a fair playing field where everybody is playing by the same set of rules. That's no longer the case. Not with Donald Trump, not when he made a call to the governor of Texas and talked about finding 5 additional seats.
The playing field has changed dramatically, and shame on us if we ignore that fact and cling tight to the vestiges of the past. That era is over. Donald Trump eliminated that forever.
It's also provided Democratic governors like Gavin Newsom and J.B. Pritzker, both potential presidential contenders, a prime opportunity to take the fight to Republicans and demonstrate their willingness and ability to take on Trump, helping set them up for potential presidential runs. Relatedly, Democrats have been stuck in a bit of a Trump-induced identity crisis, with much of the party's base frustrated at what it perceives as weak and ineffective leadership. This redistricting battle has seen Democratic leaders speak in increasingly existential terms and act more visibly and defiantly than they have previously. Effectively, they're saying that it's a losing game to try and beat Republicans by playing by the normal rules. If this more combative approach pays dividends, it could help shape the Democratic strategy over the coming years. All of this plays into a broader feeling coming out of America at the moment. At one time, the US seemed to be a steady, stabilising force in global politics, but it appears that those days are over, with America's influence, popularity, and dominance on the decline. So in the next issue of our magazine Too Long, we're discussing this shift and the potential that we're currently observing the end of the American order. In that section, we discuss everything from the collapse of democratic norms in the US to the decline in American soft power, to issues with the US economy or the battle for universities, before discussing who could potentially take over in a post-America world. So if you want to find out what we really think, now's your chance. It's not just the US though. This issue is our longest ever at 78 pages, full of our very best journalism and analysis. So we also get into why Germany's military might is growing, If Farage could become the UK's Prime Minister, why countries are outsourcing their migrants, why the global order is collapsing with Professor James Kerr-Lindsay, and why leaders like Putin and Netanyahu seem to be getting away with it. The magazine has now been officially published, so if you order a copy today, we'll ship it to you as soon as we can. Or if you select the digital edition, we'll send a digital version of Too Long straight to your inbox. Plus, if you want the best deal, make sure that you subscribe to Too Long. That way, not only do you get every issue going forward, you'll also get 20% off every copy as long as you're a member. On top of that, this week only, if you use code LASTCHANCE20, you'll get an additional 20% off this copy, bringing down the cost from £9.99 to £6.40 for a digital edition, or £13.99 to £8.96 for a physical edition. This really is your last chance too. From next week, all new subscribers won't receive this issue of Too Long, instead having to wait until December's The New Middle East issue. So if you want the reduced subscriber pricing on this issue, this really is your last chance. As we outlined in our recent video on TLDR's finances, TLDR actually made a loss last year, and Too Long is a big part of our plan to make TLDR profitable in 2025 to continue funding the free videos we release every day. So if you want to be part of that, then head to toolong.news and subscribe today. We really appreciate your support.